Black single dad only had $50 for a blind date. The CEO at the next table watched him and began like a whisper inside a warm restaurant on a cold Boston night. The front door let in a thin blade of icy air each time it opened, and candles flickered on the polished wood. A server carried plates that smelled like tomatoes, garlic, and hope. In that soft light sat Malik Johnson, a tall, careful man who pushed the sleeves of his worn shirt so they looked neat. He did not have much, but he carried himself with quiet dignity, like a man who had learned to stand straight even when the world tried to bend him. He had taken $50 from a little envelope hidden in a drawer, the envelope that said, "Emergency." He told himself love could be an emergency too. His fingers held his phone like it was a small bird. He read the last message again, the one that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight." He let himself smile. He looked at the door. He looked again. The minutes moved like slow snow. 6:45 became 7. 7:15 became 7:30. Then a new message arrived, sharp and cold. "Wow, you actually went. I was just messing with you. Sorry, but you're not my type. Not worth the Uber." The second message fell on him like a stone. "You seem nice, but did you think I was actually coming?" Heat rose in his face. He swallowed it down. He would not cry in a room full of strangers. He would not let the shame push his head down. He straightened his back. He folded the napkin over his knee. He hid the sting in his chest the way he hid extra coins under his sink. He told himself the lie many men tell. It does not hurt. It did. And at the far side of the room, a woman with calm eyes and a quiet power watched him. She did not stare to judge. She watched to understand. Her name was Naomi Caldwell. Her blazer was simple and clean. Her grandmother's gold earrings caught the candlelight. Her hands were still after a long day of meetings at Caldwell Organics. She knew what it felt like to be alone in a crowded place. She knew the shape of a kind of pain that keeps your shoulders square while your heart shakes. Naomi lifted a hand and called the server. "The house pasta and a sparkling lemonade," she whispered and slid her card to pay. "For the man by the window." When the plate reached his table, Malik shook his head. "I didn't order this." The server said, "It's been taken care of." Malik looked around, worried it was another trick. Naomi stood and walked over. Her voice was low and steady. "It's not charity. It's a reminder. You deserve to eat, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise." He turned and saw her face, strong, kind, not pushy, not pitying. He did not have words ready. He nodded. She asked, "May I sit?" He nodded again. He ate slowly, not just tasting pasta, but tasting dignity. He had lived many hungry days, so his little girl would not. Tonight, a stranger saw him. When the plate was empty, Naomi slid a small white card across the table. He read her name. He saw the title below it, CEO. His eyes lifted fast. She only smiled a little. "If you ever want to be seen again, you know where to find me." She left with her wine still full. Malik held the card like a warm coal in a cold hand. He felt something old in him wake up and sit beside his sadness. It was hope. 1 week later, Malik carried that hope into a small cafe near the public library. The place smelled like cinnamon and steamed milk. He came for a cheap coffee, and because his daughter, Ava, loved the library across the street. She was 5, with neat braids and bright eyes, and she could color for hours on the carpet in the children's corner. Before Malik could step to the counter, a voice he now knew said, "Make it 2, and please add oat milk to his." He turned. Naomi was in the corner near the window. The sleeves of her blazer were pushed up. Her laptop waited. She looked less like a CEO and more like a woman making room for a friend. "You remembered my coffee?" he asked. "I remembered your courage," she said. "The coffee is easy." They talked about small things first. Weather, a funny sign outside. A silly mistake in a company slogan that had gone viral for the wrong reason. Malik laughed in a way he had not laughed in a long time, with his shoulders loose and his eyes soft. Later, she sent him a digital pass to a workshop on child nutrition. "No pressure," her note said. He went and asked the kind of question a real parent asks. "What should we look for on labels when time and money are both against you?" Heads turned. People listened. because he spoke from real life. After the workshop, he crossed to the library and found Ava lying on her belly, coloring a rainbow cat. "Daddy!" she cried and ran into his arms. Naomi waited a few steps back, not wanting to intrude. Ava peeked out from Malik's shoulder and studied Naomi. She stepped forward with the natural trust of a small child and touched the hem of Naomi's coat. "She smells like Mommy's perfume," Ava whispered. The air went still. Malik's chest clenched. Naomi bent down, her face gentle. "Then your mommy had wonderful taste," she said. It was a small thing, a soft bridge laid over a deep river. That night, when Ava had a fever, Malik panicked the way parents do. He called Naomi without thinking why. She arrived with a cool cloth and a quiet song. She hummed a gospel tune without knowing Malik's late wife had hummed the same tune, with silly words to make a teary baby giggle. Malik's hand shook as he ladled soup. Tears broke free and he let them. Naomi did not look away. Ava slept. The apartment was very quiet. "You couldn't have known," he whispered. "I didn't have to," Naomi said. "Some things find their own way home." After that, their weeks braided together. She asked him to look at product labels through the eyes of a dad on a budget. He told her what sounded fake and what sounded true. He fixed a sagging cabinet in her kitchen with a laugh and a screwdriver. She showed him a rooftop garden where herbs grew in boxes made by a local carpenter. Ava watched dragonflies spin and learned the names of leaves. On Fridays, they played Mancala at Malik's small table with the yellow chip in the paint. When Malik worked late shifts, Naomi picked up Ava, and the little girl would fall asleep in the car with her cheek against Naomi's coat. It felt like a family building itself, not with loud words, but with many quiet yeses. But life does not give blessings without testing if we truly want them. One day, an envelope came with a heavy letter, a scholarship, a year-long training program in Oregon. It would make him a certified medical technician. It would lift their life higher. It would also pull him far away for a year. Malik folded the letter and carried it in his pocket because it burned his fingers to hold it open. He met Naomi at the park. Ava chased bubbles that popped like tiny moons. "I got a scholarship," he said, his voice rough. "It could change everything. But it's in Oregon." He waited for anger. He waited for the look that says, "How could you?" Naomi did not flinch. "Loving someone is not clipping their wings," she said. "Go, learn, come back." He felt the words land and then fit. They made space around his fear, and in that space he could breathe again. When the day came, they made a paper chain with Ava. Each loop was 1 week of the year. The chain crawled across the wall like a rainbow snake. "We'll tear off one every Sunday," Naomi said. Ava laughed, but her eyes were serious. At the bus station, Malik hugged his daughter, then hugged Naomi, and both felt like leaving the best part of himself behind. "Hearts don't care about distance," Ava whispered as if she had read his thoughts. "They are like birds. They fly." Naomi smiled with wet eyes and kissed Ava's hair. The year was not easy. The first week, Malik missed the sound of Ava's feet tapping the old floorboards. The second week, he missed Naomi's voice reading a label out loud and asking, "Does this sound honest?" He studied hard, eyes red, fingers ink-stained, learning the machines, the steps, the language of a room where beeping could mean trouble or hope. On some nights, he stood under the cold Oregon stars, phone to his ear, listening to Ava's soft stories about a snail named Tiny who wanted to climb a mountain. On other nights, Naomi called from a taxi between meetings and told him about a new supply chain idea, and then said, "Hold on, your girl is showing me her new drawing," and then gave the phone to Ava. Sundays. They tore links off the paper chain over video call. 52, Ava said at the start. 51, a week later. "We are winning." Not everyone was kind. People whispered about Naomi spending time with some guy with no money. A board member with a too white smile warned her that optics matter. A gossip blog ran a mean story. CEO falls for single dad. Publicity ploy or real? Naomi turned off her phone and went to Malik's empty apartment to water the spider plant. She sat on the floor with her back against the couch, eyes closed. She wanted to fight back, but some fights waste your air. She chose to breathe. The biggest storm came in the spring. A Caldwell Organics shipment was delayed. A supplier cut corners. A child had an allergic reaction, mild but terrifying. The internet woke up with teeth. Naomi did not hide. She stood in front of cameras, her face steady. We failed a standard. We fix it now. Malik watched the video on his tiny dorm screen. His heart pounded with pride and worry. He called. "I'm here," he said. "Always." She smiled in a way he could hear. "I know." Even far away, he found ways to stand beside her. He wrote a simple letter to the team as a parent, asking for labels that spoke plain truth. The letter was passed around and taped to a break room wall. It reminded busy people who they were serving. By summer, Malik was working at a clinic for training. He held hands. He learned to listen to machines and people at the same time. He stayed late to clean after a child threw up blueberry juice. He did not flinch. He had done harder things for Ava. He missed home so much it hurt the bones in his face. But each Sunday, the paper chain grew shorter. Each Sunday, the bird in his chest flapped harder. He would come home not empty-handed, but with a skill that could feed their future. When the year ended, Boston felt new under his feet. The hospital where he now worked smelled like soap and hope. He clipped on his badge. Malik Johnson, Certified Medical Technician. He stood a little taller. The envelope on his desk came thick and creamy. Product launch celebration, Caldwell Organics, rooftop garden, 3 Wise p.m. The rooftop was a little world above the city, with lights strung like stars and long tables holding boxes in soft colors. On each box, a silhouette of a woman holding a child close. Under it, a simple line, "For the women who stayed hungry to feed hope." Those words went right into Malik's chest. He knew those women. He had been raised by one. He was raising one of his own, in a way, by learning how to care. Naomi stepped to the mic. The wind touched her hair. She spoke without fancy words. She told the truth about food, time, cost, and love. She said a label should earn trust like a person must earn it. She looked up and found him in the crowd, and for a second the whole city went quiet. After, she walked straight through the talking and the clinking glasses to him. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said softly. "I wasn't sure you'd still want me here," he said. "Impossible," she whispered. She reached into her pocket and pulled a small velvet box. She did not go down on one knee. She did not make a show. She opened it so only he could see. A plain band with a single stone that caught the sun. "I don't want to fix you," she said. "I want to stay with you. If you'll let me." He did not make a speech. "Some answers live in your eyes before they reach your mouth." "Yes," he said. Behind them, someone gasped and clapped. Ava, who had crept up with 2 tooth-missing grins, jumped up and down like a tiny storm. "I knew it," she cried. "I knew it like a bird knows the sky." They laughed. Then a shadow slid across the bright moment. Trouble often waits for joy to show its face. A man in an expensive coat stepped from a group near the bar. His name was Owen Pierce. He sat on a board that liked numbers more than people. He smiled without any warmth. "Beautiful story," he said too loud. "From $50 to a CEO's ring. The press will eat this." Naomi's eyes turned cool. Malik's shoulders stiffened. "We don't owe you our private life," Naomi said. Owen raised both hands. "Of course not. But optics, you know. Also, there's a small matter. The blogger who stirred things up earlier still wants a bite. She claims she was the blind date who never showed, and now she's ready to tell the world what kind of man this is." Malik's stomach dropped as if an elevator cable snapped. He thought of the messages, the cruelty, the shame. He felt 12 years old again, the day a teacher said in front of the class, "Some of us are not college material." Naomi did not blink. "Let her call," she said. "I have an answer." The blogger did call. She threw sharp words, hungry for clicks. She said he wanted a free meal with his sob story. Naomi asked to meet her face-to-face in a quiet office with a glass door and a plant that needed water. She listened to the woman talk herself into knots for 10 minutes. Then Naomi placed 2 printed texts on the table. The screenshots Malik had saved, time-stamped, showing the cruel dare and the lines about "not worth the Uber." She set a third paper beside them, an email from the same woman to a friend, boasting about baiting some dad for a laugh. Naomi did not shout. She pushed the papers toward the blogger. "I am not here to shame you," Naomi said. "I am here to remind you that words are arrows. Sometimes they hit hearts and not just targets. We won't be your entertainment." The blogger stared. Her face crumpled in a way that said she had not expected gentleness where she had earned a slap. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It was stupid," Naomi nodded once. "It was. Now write the truth or write nothing." The story never ran. The wind that could have turned a tiny flame into a wildfire went still. But storms do not come one at a time. The hospital where Malik worked had a night when everything went wrong. A power flicker, a medicine cart jam, an angry family shouting in panic. In the chaos, a vial went missing from a locked tray. Cameras caught a blur. Someone said a name. It was not Malik's, but rumors do not care about names. They care about noise. By morning, whispers ran down the halls. The new tech, you know. When the supervisor asked questions, Malik's hands shook. He had never taken anything that was not his, not even a pen. He told the truth. He felt the old fear knocking. Poverty puts a brand on your skin, and some eyes see the brand before they see the person. Naomi came without being asked. She walked the halls with quiet feet and a face that made people tell the truth. She asked for logins, door swipes, camera angles. She talked to a janitor who had noticed a sticky door. She talked to a nurse who had been on her third double shift and barely remembered her own name. Piece by piece, the picture changed. The vial had rolled under a cart when the power flickered. The system flagged a mismatch. No one had stolen it at all. A simple mistake had been about to crush a man's good name. When the supervisor said, "We are sorry," Malik nodded once, but his eyes were full. Not angry tears, relief tears. The kind that come when a weight you had carried since childhood. "They will blame me first," finally slides off your shoulders. He went to a quiet stairwell to breathe. Naomi followed him. They sat 2 steps apart. "I'm okay," he said. "I know," she said. "I also know that okay can still feel heavy." He looked at her and hated that his next thought was this. Did she regret choosing a life where these storms would visit them? He did not ask. He didn't need to. Naomi reached across the step and took his hand. "I picked this," she said as if she had heard his unspoken worry. "Today. Tomorrow. On the good days and on the ones that try to break us. Birds do not leave the sky because clouds arrive." Malik smiled, tired but real. He squeezed her hand. He could breathe again. They returned that evening to the restaurant where their first meeting had begun. The same navy linens, the same soft music, the same table by the window that once held a man's shame now held something else. Ava sat between them, serious as a judge as she unfolded a paper from her backpack. "I drew us," she said. "Daddy, Mommy Naomi, and me. Under a roof with a yellow door." She pointed to the tiny yellow door. "Because our door is sunshine." The server, who had once placed pasta in front of a lonely man, smiled with both eyes. "Welcome back," he said. "Order anything." Naomi leaned near Malik and said, "Tonight we eat for the man who waited and the girl who believed in him." Malik took a breath and let it out slow. He could feel his old pain sitting at the table, too, but it was smaller now. It could not hold the forks. It could not tilt the cups. It was only a ghost at the edge of a warm room. They ordered too much and laughed when Ava stole olives. As they ate, a woman at another table stared for a moment too long. Naomi saw her and lifted her chin, not rude, not weak. The woman looked away. Malik did not notice because Ava was asking why noodles curl like smiles. Later, when the plates were empty and the candles burned low, Naomi took a tiny velvet pouch from her pocket and tipped a ring into her palm. They had already said yes on the rooftop, but some yeses deserve a ceremony even if there is no crowd. She slid the band onto his finger and he slid one onto hers. Ava clapped 3 times, then hit her face and peeked through her fingers. The server came by with sparkling lemonade on the house. The lights made the bubbles look like tiny stars. "To beginnings," Naomi said. To not giving up, Malik said. To birds, Ava added, because of course she did. The next months moved like a quiet song with a few big drums. Caldwell Organics launched a program for single parents who wanted to learn how to cook quick, honest meals. Malik helped write the class notes in simple words. No fancy chef talk, real talk. If you have 10 minutes, do this. If you have $5, choose this. If you need to breathe, sit for 1 minute and count spoonfuls. He stood in front of a room on a Thursday night and told 20 parents how to read labels without feeling dumb. He told them about frozen vegetables being okay. He told them that shame is not an ingredient. After class, a man who looked like he had not slept in 2 years put a hand on Malik's shoulder and said, "Thank you. I thought I was failing. I was tired. I think I just needed someone to tell me I'm not alone." Malik swallowed hard and nodded. He knew that man. He had been that man. The board at Caldwell Organics was not always kind. Owen tried again to shape Naomi into a brand more than a person. He failed because Naomi had a spine like a bridge and a heart like a garden. She let people cross. She made things grow, but she did not fall. When a big grocery chain wanted to push the price up and cut the quality down, she said no. Parents can't afford lies, she told them. Malik listened to her practice the speech at the kitchen table and said, "That line will go around the world." She smiled and said, "I don't care about the world. I care about the parent standing in aisle 7 at 8 p.m. after a long shift." Ava started kindergarten. On the first day, she wore new shoes that squeaked. She asked if the school had a paper chain for the year. "We can make one," Naomi said. They did. It hung above a small desk by a sunny window. On the weekends, they went to the park. Naomi and Malik took turns pushing Ava on the swing while the others sipped coffee. They talked about money, chores, hopes, and fears. Real life, not shiny life. Some nights they were too tired to talk, and that was okay too. Some nights they danced in the living room to old songs, Ava on Malik's shoes. When worries came, they named them like stray cats, fed them a tiny saucer of reason, and sent them back outside. Naming things made them smaller. One late night when the apartment was finally quiet, Malik said, "Sometimes I think about that night. The one with the messages." Naomi reached across the couch, her fingers finding his. "Me too." He looked at her. "Do you wish it had never happened?" She shook her head. "No, that pain pointed my eyes at the right table." He smiled, amazed at how the worst moment of a year could become the doorway to the best. Time passed. Seasons turned like careful pages. On a rainy afternoon, the hospital had a drill. Malik moved through the steps like a song he knew by heart. He did not stumble. He did not doubt. He switched out an IV line with hands that did not shake. He comforted a scared boy with a joke about a superhero who wears pajamas. The head nurse nodded from the doorway, proud. At Caldwell, Naomi stood on another stage and talked about trust again. She talked about building a company like building a family table. Sturdy, honest, with enough chairs. She forgot the cameras and spoke to one person she pictured, a mom counting coins, a dad reading a plain label, a grandparent feeling lost in a sea of boxes. She got off stage and found Malik and Ava waiting in the wings. Ava wore a tiny lanyard that said, "Helper." She had drawn a heart on it. "You did amazing," Malik said. "You always do," she replied. He shook his head. "Not always. But today we did." That night, they walked to the restaurant where it began because some places become part of your story in a way that matters. The host smiled like an old friend. "Your table is ready," he said. They did not plan to make a big scene, but life gave them a small miracle. The woman who once sent the cruel messages came in with a friend. She saw them and froze. Her face went pale. She took a step back. Naomi noticed. Malik did too. For a second, silence held them like a held breath. Then Naomi gave the smallest nod, not a wave, not a grin, just a nod that said, "We are at peace." The woman lowered her eyes. She was not a villain. She was a person who once chose cruelty and now had to walk past it. She did quietly. The room kept breathing. The server set down sparkling lemonade for Ava and water for the adults. They ordered pasta because some good things should repeat. They ate slow. They told stories. They made space for tomorrow. At the end, Malik reached across the white cloth and took Naomi's hand. He remembered the first bite he took in this place, how it tasted like dignity and how a stranger's simple kindness became a road. He looked at his family and felt something settle inside him like a house finally built on bedrock. He understood the lesson of his own life. Winning is not a headline. It is the quiet choice to keep showing up with a good heart when no one is clapping. It is telling the truth when a lie would be easier. It is sharing your last $50 with your own hope and trusting that hope will not laugh at you. So he stood to speak, not loud, just enough for their small table. "I want to say thank you," he said to Naomi and to Ava and to the server who had seen him both broken and whole. "I want to say that I came here once with $50 and a heart full of fear. A stranger gave me a plate and a sentence that changed me. You deserve to eat." And we built a life from there. Not a fairy tale, a real one. With dishes to wash and long days and paper chains that get shorter. I am proud of us. Naomi's eyes shone. Ava squeezed his arm and said, "Daddy, we are birds." He laughed. "Yes, we are birds." They walked into the Boston night. The wind sharp but friendly, the streetlights painting long gold lines on wet pavement. They were not afraid of storms anymore. They had learned how to hold hands tight and how to let them go when wings needed room. They had learned that simple words said at the right time can move a whole life. And they had learned that tables are not just for food. They are for building families that start with kindness, grow with work, and last with love. The title that began in a whisper now felt like a bell, clear and bright and true. Black single dad only had $50 for a blind date. The CEO at the next table watched him and chose to act with kindness, and that choice became a home.